Hi, I'm Rob Bowen with Sharp College Football. This is the Saturday 6. It's not Saturday. And we're not doing 6 games. So it's been a couple weeks, really. 2 weeks, 3 weeks since we last did one of these. Normally I do these at the beginning of the week on a Monday or so to preview 6 games that are going to be on the coming Saturday for college football. If you're first tuning in, I am the econometrician chicken behind BetaRank, an advanced stats model for college football. You can find all the stats you're going to see tonight and a lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. And so what we're going to do tonight is we're going to run through and preview the 2 playoff games that are up and coming, COVID willing. And our run through here is we're just going to look at the matchups, try to pick out what is advantageous to particular teams or not. Run through what teams are good at, what they're not good at, and see how those match up versus what the other teams have available there as well. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up. I'm not sure I'll necessarily get to them in the chat here as I'm running through all this. I got to admit, it's not terribly interactive, but maybe that's, for the future. We'll also do one of these to preview the championship game, which should be a lot of fun when we get there, when we get there. Anyway, I'm excited. These games should be interesting. Right now, neither of them has a particularly tight spread on them, but that doesn't mean that they won't necessarily be close. Turnovers and chaos do exist in college football. So without really, there's not really much further ado, not much else to talk about. Bowl season has been, mostly fun so far. I feel like it continues to be a little crazy and a little wacky, both with opt-outs, and of course with coaching staff changes, things like that. We had our first team, of course, with Texas A&M drop out, unable to play in a bowl game. Rutgers is coming in. That should be an absolute massacre. What a great way for Wake to bounce back after a really abysmal performance by Hartman against Pitt. They should bounce back pretty well in that game, I would expect. Anyway, I'm excited. This should be a fun run through. Let me know what you think. I'm excited to be back doing these. I did not notice that Twitter resurrected some sort of producer after they killed off Periscope. So I'm excited to be back doing that on this instead of on Twitch. But as always, you can find these on YouTube as well. So let's hop in. So our first game, we get number 2 Alabama, number 7 Cincinnati. Nick Saban's your head coach at Alabama. Of course, Luke Fickell is your head coach at Cincinnati. This on paper is it's not a super tight matchup, to be frank. Alabama's pretty heavily favored in Vegas. They're not actually. BetaRank has this game a little bit closer than that, but not like a lot closer. It's still a game that's a little bit, pretty much in Bama's favor. Alabama's offense comes in number 3 overall. Bill O'Brien's your offensive coordinator here. They get the number 10 Cincinnati defense. It's Mike Tressel is your defensive coordinator. The Alabama's got, this isn't the same Alabama offense we saw last year, for sure. They're not quite in that range, but this is still a very, very good offense. Number 4 in drive efficiency. They're pretty good at, and all the metrics you see here are controlling for opponent and field position. So controlling for opponent and field position, they're pretty good at putting together long drives to put up points, not having to rely just on big plays. They're number 8 in explosive drives. You saw them really hit some explosives against Georgia, and that was one of the major things that led to them winning that game, as well as the fact that they could keep the quarterback upright, which has been a problem when they run into trouble this season. Number 7 in play efficiency outside of explosives. They get a decent yards per play. Number 4 in negative drives. Not a lot of 3 and outs, not a lot of turnovers. They do a good job on that. In particular, this is a very pass first offensive scheme. Number 4 in effective pass, number 57 in effective rush. This Bama team is going to look to line up and throw the ball on you. They get a Cincinnati defense, number 10 overall in BetaRank. This is a very, very good defense. This is some excellent defense. This is going to be an easier defense, easier outing for this Alabama offense than they had perhaps, necessarily against Georgia, even though they had a really good game against Georgia. Number 36 in drive efficiency. You can I mean, I say this because they're a Group of 5 team, but this is a middle of the road Power 5 number. You can absolutely put together drives to put up points against the Cincinnati, defense. Number 11 in explosive drives. They do a pretty good job containing explosives. 13 in play efficiency. Outside of explosives, they do a decent job there. Where they really shine is number 6 in negative drives. They're gonna have to force 3 and outs and turnovers against Bama if they're gonna want to hang in this game. There's just no way that they're going to be able to hang here, and keep Bama from putting up points on the board without really and also aid their offense, which is a little bit of a disadvantage here, and aid their offense really, I think here too. Or number 14 in effective rush. They don't have people I think are bad mouthing this run defense. It's a pretty good run defense. Number 7 in effective pass, though. In some sense, you could look at that and say, like, oh, you should feel a little bit better if you're Cincinnati. If you're going to be better at anything when taking on Bama, it's certainly better to be, excel at the pass defense as opposed to the run defense. But I think this is going to be a tough matchup for them. People are talking up these corners from Cincinnati. I think it's still going to be a tough one, a tough assignment for them, stopping this Alabama passing game. So I expect Alabama is going to be able to get their points, for the most part of this game, barring turnovers, right? This is the number 13 Cincinnati offense. Mike Denbrock's your offensive coordinator here. Number 9 in drive efficiency. They're pretty good at putting together drives to put up points. Only at 19 in explosive drives, though. That's a bit of a trouble. They're not a huge big play offense. 5 at drive efficiency. They're big watch out. They're big watch out. And perhaps the biggest watch out coming into this game is 44 in negative drives. This is simply, they are not good. I mean, they've too many 3 and outs, too many turnovers, too much heading backwards for the Cincinnati offense. 24 in effective rush, 16 in effective pass. They've certainly improved the passing game. What might be interesting in this game is Ritter might have to add something with his legs here. He is fairly athletic. But I don't think that they're necessarily just going to be able to move the ball at will against this Alabama defense. They're number 3 overall. Pete Golding's your defensive coordinator here. They're at 23 in drive efficiency. You can put together drives against this Alabama defense and put up points, but they're really good at containing big plays. 3 in explosive drives, 3 at play efficiency, 5 at negative drives. They force a lot of 3 and outs and turnovers. They're number 3 in effective rush, number 11 in effective pass. You can throw the ball against Alabama, and where they've really run into trouble is against teams that throw the ball. I mean, the Texas A&M game was A&M. I wouldn't say they threw the ball well all season. They threw the ball really well in that game. Cincinnati's going to have to let Ritter cook, in order to be able to hang in this game. It's Alabama, with Will Anderson in particular. They're really good at stopping the run. They're going to have to find a way to get the ball moving through the air. Beta Rank has this at Alabama with a 79% win probability. About 9 1/3 is the point spread, and Beta Rank is them as the favorite. I mean, this should be a fun game. Cincinnati, they finished +1 on turnovers. They can really tighten this up, but it's a tough one. Alabama has a really big special teams advantage in this game, even though Bama doesn't have great special teams. Cincinnati special teams are really bad, and in particular with the place kicking. So that is certainly something to watch out for here. If you're Cincinnati, you absolutely do not want to leave yourself in a position in no man's land where you have a long 3rd down or a long 4th down in field goal range, because their place kicking has just been, incredibly bad all season. This is a good one too. Here we have the number 1 Georgia Bulldogs, number 4 Michigan Wolverines. Kirby Smart and Jim Harbaugh, your coaches here. Georgia's offense, it may not seem like it. They've been pretty good this season. Todd Monken's your offensive coordinator here. They're number 6 in drive efficiency. They're able to put together drives to put up points, but they're excellent at explosive drives. Number 1 overall there. Number 2 in play efficiency. Number 5 in negative drives. Not a lot of 3 and outs. Not a lot of turnovers. Number 8 in effective rush, number 8 in effective pass. But I will say, I mean, they've been pretty good throwing the football, but I think it keys a lot off of how effective their run game has been. I don't know that this Michigan defense is going to put them in a spot where they really, like they did against Bama, maybe, I mean, I think there are a couple things Georgia would regret against Bama, one of which is not blitzing enough to get after the quarterback. The other of which is that they certainly did not. They certainly didn't do enough. I don't think they were able to do enough with Stetson Bennett to really pressure Alabama's, pass defense. Michigan, Mike McDonald's your defensive coordinator in here. He's done a really good job cleaning up and creating a bounce back year for them on defense. They're number 9 overall in beta rank, 15 in drive efficiency. They're pretty good controlling, finding ways to get off the field. 12 in explosive drives. They're best at play efficiency. I mean, it's the least important of the core 4 beta rank metrics, but controlling yards per play, outside of explosives, they do a pretty good job there. 17 at negative drives, not forcing a ton of 3-and-outs and turnovers comparatively. They're going to have a really good game here. Number 8 in effective rush, number 12 in effective pass. That bodes well. I mean, they're a little bit better against the run than they are against the pass. Georgia, though they do put up some passing yards, it's often been against somewhat inferior competition when they do throw the ball and air it out. I don't know. I got to see it from Georgia. I mean, I'm interested if Michigan is able to cause enough problems in the run game that they force Georgia to have to pass. That's where I think this game could get really interesting. Both of these teams, by the way, have excellent special teams, number 1 and number 2 overall in special teams. Which is interesting because this game you could absolutely see field goals mattering. So flip it around though. Josh Gaddis is your offensive coordinator for the Wolverines. Dan Lanning, now the Oregon head coach, but is staying with Georgia through the end of the playoff run, is the defensive coordinator for this Georgia defense. This Michigan offense is pretty good overall. At number 5. This is certainly the best ranking that they've had under Gaddis by a long shot. They've I mean, not that they've been bad, they've just finished more in the 15-ish range than they have in the top 10, and getting here into the top 5 is really good for them. They are really good at drive efficiency, number 3 overall there. They are able to put together long drives to put up points. Not a terribly explosive offense though, number 36 overall. That's a tough one. I mean, Bama was able to hit a couple of really big plays, really open up the game for them against Georgia. It seems like a hard slog to have to put together long drives to get points against this Georgia defense. Like, you don't want to have to go the length of the field against them. Number 6 in play efficiency. They're getting good yards per play, controlling for opponent field position and excluding explosives. But 10 in negative drives, they don't get a lot of 3-and-outs and turnovers. But here they have a huge run pass split. Number 5 in effective rush, number 34 in effective pass. This is just not a great passing game. I'm interested to see how much Michigan has to throw it in this game. If they end up behind, it's concerning to think of this Michigan team having to play from behind in this game. So a key for them is, of course, keep a lid on it early. Like, don't find yourself in a 2-score hole. This Georgia defense, though, number 1 overall in beta rank, even after, they've come back to earth. They are no longer with in the stars, with amongst the best defenses that we've measured in the model. They are back to merely being a very, very, very good defense. Number 1 overall this year. Number 1 in drive efficiency. They do a really good job controlling, getting off the field, not giving up long drives. Great against explosives, number 1 overall there. Number 1 at play efficiency. Only number 7 at negative drives, not forcing enough 3-and-outs, not forcing enough turnovers to be number 1 there. So number 2 in effective rush, number 1 in effective pass. I'm interested to see this part of this game is going to be part of Georgia's, terrific success that they've had in being able to put up a ton of points. They do have a very good offense, but they've been able to put up a ton of points as they've had consistently really good field position provided by their defense and special teams. If they're able to provide that again here, if Michigan really struggles, this game could get long. Even though you really like Michigan's defensive line, this could turn into a really long game for them. They might need to have their defense. Michigan might need 1 or 2 turnovers in this game to put them in plus field position to be able to potentially score points on a short field. It's just a tough matchup. Beta rank has this Georgia with an 83% win probability, 11.78 currently in the model. It's like I said, Michigan might need a turnover or 2 here in order to get this one close. That's it. I mean, that's all we're doing this week. I'm not gonna jump in. I think in like a regular normal year, I would jump in and try to preview some more of the other games. I feel like with the staff turnover, the wackiness of bowl season, and also like I'm really not motivated to invest the time to preview games that frankly may not even be played with the teams in them at this point. If you look at the way things are going in college basketball, it's a little rough out there. So everyone, stay safe out there. Do your part. Anyway, I'm excited. These should be two pretty fun games. But I mean, really barring a little bit of chaos, and we rarely, I will say that's one of the things about, we certainly have had a little bit of chaos in the championship games from time to time. Where I wouldn't say necessarily where it's, like where a team that was like number 4 or 5 in the model or something like that ends up becoming the national champion. It's usually more along the lines of the team that was number 2 in the model ends up becoming the national champion because they're able to, through luck or, good, and you have a Brent Venables game plan available on defense to really stonewall somebody. But for the most part, the semifinals usually play according to plan. That's been one of the hallmarks of the playoff thus far, is that the semifinals usually just end up, I mean, even if there's a little bit of chaos, usually end up the space between the teams is usually great enough that it doesn't matter. Interestingly enough, this year though, I mean, we're not talking necessarily, I mean, it's like I will say like in 2019, like we don't have like a Clemson Ohio State matchup in a semifinal that's like a real match of juggernauts. And we also don't necessarily have something like an LSU Oklahoma semifinal that's like should be an obvious blowout. That said, we clearly have both of these games at 2 possession games, and that, I mean, like we those normally, in games in this range in the semifinals normally go according to plan. I mean, we haven't had real, I'm trying to think like, and maybe we have had, games where the favorite ends up, in down 2 on turnovers or something like that, and they're just so much better than the other semifinalists that it doesn't matter. But this year, I mean, I will say that like, if either Alabama or Georgia end up -2 on turnovers, these games should be close. So keep an eye out for that. I mean, obviously, always keep an eye on turnovers. Nothing infuses a little bit of randomness into college football games like turnovers. But if you kind of need a little bit of that. I think if you're Michigan or Cincinnati, you have to come into these games really planning on or aiming to or hoping to force some turnovers and have a little bit of luck go your way. I mean, you certainly would argue, I think, that Alabama had some luck break their way in that SEC championship game. Georgia did not come in with a particularly good game plan. They didn't execute well offensively, and then on defensively, I was surprised. I was surprised that they didn't follow what had worked so well against Alabama, from Auburn, what had worked well for Alabama against, that A&M had used, and Florida had used. I mean, to really just put Alabama in a tough spot. I think it's also certainly true, though. Bama's defense has improved a bit as the season has gone on. And I want to see this. I want to see what Georgia's worked on. I think particularly offensively, in the break. And I mean, these are going to be 2 really valuable data points on whomever wins these games as they go into the championship game, which again, it's likely a Bama, Georgia rematch, but that wouldn't be the worst thing. I'd be excited to see those 2 teams tangle again, because Georgia should certainly come in with a better defensive game plan. You don't expect Bama to just hit a bunch of big plays 2 times in a row. That kind of execution right off the bat on plays that really change the game. So yeah, that's our preview. Anyway, let me know what you think. Again, I'm excited to be back on the Twitter machine with the producer there. It's a far more, I think fan friendly setup. I mean, for what we do, which is just sports and not like, online gaming or something like that, which Twitch was. So yeah. All right. Anyway, let's run through the credential stuff, and we'll do it like after the semifinals finish. We'll run through and do a preview video, of the final game. Maybe I'll try to get somebody else on for that, so it's not just me doing the yakety yak. Anyway, You can find all the stats you just saw and a lot more at sharpcollegefootball.com. I'm Rob Bowerin, the econometrician chicken behind Beta Rank. You can find me at Beta Rank FB. I'm also at Sharp College Football. We have a Pac-12 podcast at 12 Pack Radio. You can find all the back episodes of that at sharpcollegefootball.com/12 Pack Radio. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy some football out there. This should be a lot of fun. I really need Florida to kind of pull it together a little bit. I mean, it's one of those wacky, like the model doesn't see, of course, the coaching change or something like that. And UCF's been scuffling along a little bit this year under Malzahn, but you know, what are you going to do? Anyway, stay safe out there, and we'll see you to preview the title game.